Do you think Jordan is just Petra? A rose-red city carved into cliffs, a narrow canyon, a famous treasury glowing in the desert sun, and tourists raising their cameras in front of one of the most photographed monuments on Earth? Then explain this. Long before Petra became famous, people in this land were building mysterious stone circles across the desert that can only truly be understood from the sky. Before the pyramids of Egypt rose from the sand, the people of ancient Jordan were shaping human figures from plaster, creating some of the oldest large-scale statues ever found. Before Rome controlled the eastern Mediterranean, desert kingdoms were turning empty landscapes into trade empires, hiding water systems inside mountains and building roads through places where modern travelers can barely survive without engines. And beneath the black volcanic desert of eastern Jordan, there are stone structures so strange that early pilots called them the works of old men, because no one knew who made them, why they were placed there, or how ancient people understood their shape without seeing them from above. This is Jordan, a country most people reduce to one image, Petra. But Petra is only the door. Behind it is a landscape filled with older cities, vanished kingdoms, desert castles, prehistoric statues, giant stone traps, sacred rivers, lost mosaics, and ruins that seem to belong to different worlds layered on top of each other. Jordan is not just a place where history happened. Jordan is a place where history piled up so deeply that each layer hides another secret beneath it. Today, we are not going to stop at Petra. We are going beyond the postcard, because the real mystery of Jordan is not that it has one wonder of the ancient world. The real mystery is that Petra may not even be the strangest thing hidden there. Look at a map. Jordan sits at the crossroads of continents. To the west, the Mediterranean world. To the east, the Arabian desert. To the north, Syria and Mesopotamia. To the south, the Red Sea and the trade routes of Arabia. For thousands of years, anyone moving between empires, religions, armies, and markets had to pass near this land. Egyptians knew it. Assyrians knew it. Babylonians knew it. Nabataeans mastered it. Romans fortified it. Byzantines painted it with mosaics. Early Islamic dynasties filled its deserts with palaces. Crusaders built castles on its hills. And long before all of them, people whose names we do not know had already left marks in stone. Jordan is a corridor, but it is also a trap for memory. Civilizations arrived, built, disappeared, and left fragments behind. A city here, a temple there, a road in the desert, a statue underground, a fortress on a mountain, a drawing on stone, a burial chamber under a field. The result is a country where the ground rarely belongs to one period. Almost every place has another place beneath it. And the first secret begins not with a city, but with the sky. Across the deserts of Jordan and the wider region are enormous stone structures known as desert kites. From the ground, many of them look like nothing. Low stone lines stretching across barren land, broken walls, scattered rocks, shapes so large that a person standing beside them may not understand the design at all. But from the air, the pattern appears. Long stone arms converge toward an enclosure. Some look like funnels. Some stretch for kilometers. Some are shaped to guide animals into traps. They are ancient hunting systems, probably used to capture wild gazelles and other animals on a massive scale. But here is the disturbing part. These structures are huge. They are not little traps made by a few hunters in an afternoon. They required planning, labor, knowledge of animal movement, and an understanding of the landscape that seems almost impossible from ground level. How did the builders coordinate them? How did they imagine the full shape? How did they pass down the knowledge of where to build, how to align the walls, and how to use the desert itself as a machine? To modern eyes, desert kites look like maps drawn on Earth. But maps for whom? For hunters? For communities? For rituals? For survival? Or for a way of life that vanished so completely that only the stones remain? Some of these structures may be thousands of years old. They belong to a time when the desert was not exactly as we see it today, when animals moved through regions that are now harsh and empty. That means Jordan's desert is not empty. It is a fossil of movement, a record of vanished herds, vanished hunters, and vanished knowledge. And the strangest thing is that these kites were almost unknown to the world until aircraft began flying over the region. Like giant messages written for a viewpoint ancient people did not seem to possess. They waited silently in the desert until the sky revealed them. But the desert kites are only the beginning, because Jordan's most shocking secret is not outside in the open. It was buried underground. Near modern Amman, archaeologists discovered something that changed the story of early human art. At a site called Ain Ghazal, they found statues, not small figurines, large human-like figures made of plaster, dating back around 9,000 years. 9,000. That means these objects were created thousands of years before the pyramids, before Stonehenge, before the great cities of Mesopotamia, before writing, before kings recorded their names on monuments. The statues are strange, pale, haunting. Some have wide, staring eyes. Some are full-bodied figures. Some are busts. They do not look like simple decorations. They look like someone was trying to capture presence, a face, a spirit, an ancestor, a being that needed to be seen. But why? Were they gods, dead relatives, ritual figures, protectors? Were they displayed, buried, replaced, or used in ceremonies whose meanings disappeared before writing ever began? We do not know. That is what makes them powerful. They come from a world before history could explain itself. Imagine the moment they were made. A small Neolithic community, long before cities as we understand them, gathering materials, shaping plaster, forming bodies and faces, placing eyes into the figures. Why put so much effort into human forms? Why create faces that still look back at us after 9 millennia? The people who made them were not primitive shadows waiting for civilization to begin. They were already symbolic. They were already organized. They were already asking questions about identity, death, memory, and the unseen. And they were doing it in Jordan. So when someone says Jordan's mystery begins with Petra, they are already 8,000 years too late. But Jordan does not only preserve the deep past, it preserves forgotten kingdoms. Before Petra became a legend, the Nabataeans turned the desert into a network. Most people know the Nabataeans because of the Treasury, that magnificent facade carved into rose-colored rock. But the real genius of Petra was not the carving, it was water. Petra lies in a dry, rugged landscape where survival should have been difficult. Yet the Nabataeans built a city that could support thousands of people, travelers, merchants, animals, and caravans. How? They mastered water like engineers from the future. They cut channels into rock. They built dams. They carved cisterns. They controlled flash floods. They captured rainwater and guided it through hidden systems. They transformed a dangerous canyon landscape into a living city. This is the part most tourists never see. They walk through the sick, stare at the treasury, take photographs, and leave. But behind, the beauty is a machine. Petra was not just carved. Petra was engineered. Every drop mattered. Every channel mattered. Every reservoir mattered. The Nabataeans understood that in the desert, water is not just a resource. Water is power. Whoever controls it controls movement, trade, settlement, and life itself. This may be the real reason Petra became great. Not because its builders could carve stone, but because they could make the desert obey long enough to build a capital. Yet Petra itself remains full of unanswered questions. Why were so many monumental facades carved into cliffs? Why do some tombs appear more theatrical than practical? How many chambers remain unexplored? How much of Petra's story is still buried under sand, rubble, and collapsed stone? And why did this city, once so important, slowly lose its power? The usual answer is trade. When routes changed, Petra declined. When Rome absorbed the Nabataean kingdom, power shifted. When earthquakes struck, buildings were damaged. When sea trade became more important, caravan routes weakened. All of that is probably true, but it does not fully explain the feeling of Petra. Because Petra does not look like a normal abandoned city. It looks like a secret stage carved for a drama whose actors have disappeared. And the drama did not end there. Far from Petra, in Jordan's eastern deserts, stand the desert castles. Qasr Amra, Qasr Kharana, Qasr Halabat, Qasr Azraq. Some look like forts, some like palaces, some like caravan stations, some like lonely stone puzzles standing in a landscape that seems too empty for luxury. But Qasr Amra is different. Inside, its walls are covered with paintings, hunting scenes, bathing scenes, animals, zodiac imagery, human figures, royal symbolism. A small desert building becomes a gallery, a pleasure palace, a political statement, and a mystery all at once. Why build art like this in the desert? Who was meant to see it? Was it a retreat? A diplomatic space? A symbol of power on a frontier? A private world for rulers far from the capital? In Jordan, even the empty desert is not empty. It was a stage for power. A place where rulers could project control across space, where trade routes could be watched, where water sources could be held, where architecture could say, even here, in the silence, authority has arrived. But some sites are stranger because they were never meant to be grand. Take ar-Rasas. At first glance, it may not have the instant drama of Petra. No rose-red cliffs, no giant canyon entrance, no facade famous around the world. But beneath its quiet stones lies one of Jordan's hidden treasures: mosaics. In the Byzantine period, churches across Jordan were decorated with elaborate mosaic floors. Some show cities, animals, hunting scenes, plants, geometric patterns, and sacred imagery. A mosaic is not just decoration, it is a frozen map of belief, tiny stones arranged into a vision of the world. At ar-Rasas and other sites, the floors preserve a landscape of faith, memory, and geography. They show how communities imagined holy space, cities, nature, and divine order. But here is the mystery. Mosaics are fragile. They require time, skill, planning, and money. Why did communities in these remote places invest so much in floors people would walk over? Because in the ancient world, the floor could be a universe. To step into a church was to step onto a map of meaning. And Jordan is filled with these hidden maps. The most famous is the Madaba map, a mosaic map of the Holy Land. It is one of the oldest surviving cartographic depictions of the region, and it shows how people in late antiquity understood sacred geography. But even this famous map is only one fragment of a larger mosaic world. Jordan's churches, monasteries, towers, and ruins whisper of communities that once transformed stone into memory. Then, like so many others, they faded. Wars came, earthquakes came, trade shifted, empires changed, villages emptied. The mosaics remained under dust, a whole world became a floor. And for centuries, people walked over history without knowing what was beneath them. But Jordan's secrets are not only ancient cities and sacred art. Some of them are geological. The Dead Sea is one of the strangest places on Earth, a body of water so salty that people float on its surface. A landscape so low that it sits at the lowest exposed point on Earth's land surface, a place surrounded by cliffs, desert, mineral formations, and silence. For thousands of years, the Dead Sea region has attracted myths, traders, monks, refugees, kings, and seekers. Its minerals were valuable, its asphalt was collected in antiquity, its shores are connected to stories of destroyed cities, hidden manuscripts, sacred rivers, and apocalyptic imagination. Even the landscape feels unnatural. The air is heavy, the water is dense, the mountains seem close, the salt crusts look like another planet, and nearby is one of the most sacred and contested landscapes in the world, the Jordan River Valley. Here, religion, archaeology, geography, and memory collide. The baptism site, known as Bethany beyond the Jordan, is associated with one of Christianity's most important traditions. Pilgrims come to a quiet river landscape, not a grand monument, but a place where water again becomes the center of meaning. Notice the pattern. Jordan's great mysteries keep returning to water. The desert kites follow vanished animal movement through dry lands. Ain Ghazal was part of early settled life, where water and community shaped symbolic culture. Petra survived because the Nabataeans mastered water. The desert castles depended on wells and roots. The mosaics mapped sacred worlds often connected to rivers and holy places. The Dead Sea is water turned strange. The Jordan River is water turned sacred. In Jordan, water is never just water. It is survival, power, memory, ritual, and mystery. But the most cinematic secret may be Wadi Rum. At first, it looks like a desert of red sand and towering rock, a landscape so alien that filmmakers use it to represent Mars. But Wadi Rum is not empty wilderness. Its cliffs hold inscriptions, petroglyphs, and traces of people who crossed this desert long before modern roads. Caravans passed through, nomads lived with the land. Ancient travelers carved signs into stone. The rocks became pages, and the desert became an archive. Look closely, and Wadi Rum is not silence, it is writing. Not always writing in the modern sense, but marks of movement, identity, memory, and survival. A camel carved here, a human figure there, ancient scripts on rock faces. Messages left by people who knew the desert not as emptiness, but as a living root. Modern visitors come for the landscape, but the landscape is also a document. The question is, how much of it have we truly read? How many markings have eroded away? How many remain undocumented? How many routes, camps, rituals, and stories have vanished into sand? Wadi Rum reminds us that a place can be famous for beauty while hiding a history much older and more complicated than the photograph suggests. And that brings us to Jerash. If Petra is the city carved from rock, Jerash is the city of columns, a spectacular Greco-Roman city with streets, theaters, temples, plazas, gates, and colonnades. It is sometimes called one of the best preserved Roman cities outside Italy. But Jerash is not simply Roman. That is the trick. Like much of Jordan, it is layered. Before Rome, there were earlier communities. During Rome, the city flourished. Under Byzantium, churches rose. Later periods reused, reshaped, and buried parts of the past. The stones do not belong to one civilization. They were passed from one world to another. Walk through Jerash, and you see empire made visible. The long street, the oval plaza, the temples, the theaters. But ask yourself, What lies beneath the visible Roman city? What earlier names did this place have? What local traditions were absorbed into imperial architecture? What parts of the city remain unexcavated? What did ordinary people believe as their world shifted from pagan temples to Christian churches to Islamic rule? Jerash is not a dead Roman postcard. It is a machine of transformation, and Jordan is full of these machines, places that changed hands, changed gods, changed languages, changed meanings, but kept their stones. Now step back. Desert kites in the empty wilderness, 9,000-year-old statues with staring eyes, Petra's hidden water systems, Umayyad castles painted in the desert, Byzantine mosaics buried beneath dust, the Dead Sea and the sacred Jordan River, Wadi Rum's rock inscriptions, Jerash's layered city of columns. Now ask the real question: how can one small country contain so many different worlds? The answer is geography. Jordan is not at the edge of history, it is at the crossing point. And crossing points are dangerous places for memory. Too many people pass through, too many empires leave marks, too many religions attach meaning, too many trade routes rise and fall, too many languages come and go. The result is not one clean story, it is a palimpsest, a page written over again and again, but never fully erased. This is why Jordan feels mysterious, not because it lacks evidence, but because it has too much. Every ruin answers one question and creates 5 more. Who built this? Who used it after them? What was destroyed? What was reused? What was forgotten? What is still underground? And perhaps the deepest secret is this: Jordan's history is not hidden because no one looked for it. It is hidden because we kept looking at the same thing. Petra became so famous that it swallowed the imagination. The treasury became the image. The canyon became the journey. The rose-red cliffs became the brand. But behind Petra is another Jordan. Older than Petra, wider than Petra, stranger than Petra. A Jordan of sky-visible stone structures. A Jordan of prehistoric faces. A Jordan of desert machines. A Jordan of sacred water. A Jordan of buried mosaics. A Jordan of Roman streets and forgotten churches. A Jordan of castles in empty places. A Jordan where the desert itself remembers more than our books. And the final mystery is still unfolding. Because archaeology in Jordan is not finished. New surveys continue. Remote sensing reveals patterns invisible from the ground. Old sites are reinterpreted. Small finds change big stories. A pottery fragment, a human bone, a carved stone, a water channel, a buried wall. Any of these can shift the timeline. Somewhere in Jordan right now, under sand, under basalt, under a field, under a ruined church, under a collapsed wall, there may be a discovery waiting that will change how we understand the ancient Near East. Maybe it is another prehistoric statue, maybe an unread inscription, maybe a hidden Nabataean chamber, maybe a desert structure whose purpose we have misunderstood, maybe an ordinary house that reveals how ancient people actually lived. That is the power of Jordan. Its greatest secrets are not always locked behind giant monuments. Sometimes they are under your feet. Sometimes they are carved into a rock face. Sometimes they are arranged in stones, too large to see from the ground. Sometimes they are hidden in water systems, no tourist notices. Sometimes they are lying beneath the dust of a church floor. And sometimes they are in the places everyone thinks they already understand. Petra is magnificent, but Petra is not the whole story. Petra is the invitation, the first door, the famous face of a much deeper mystery. Because Jordan is not one secret. It is a country built from secrets stacked on top of each other. A desert that was never empty, a crossroads that never stopped changing, a landscape where water became power, stone became memory, and ruins became questions. So the next time someone shows you Petra and says, "This is Jordan," remember this. Behind the carved facade is a hidden water empire. Beyond the canyon are desert structures older than history. Beneath modern streets are 9,000-year-old faces. Across the desert are castles, maps, mosaics, inscriptions, and cities that refuse to disappear. Jordan's greatest wonder is not that Petra exists. It is that Petra is only one chapter, and the rest of the book is still buried in the sand.